Welcome to Real Estate Secrets Unlocked, the podcast that takes you inside the minds of the industry's top professionals, revealing their top secrets to success. I'm your host, Danielle Damiano. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, get ready to learn the latest trends, strategies, and secrets that will help you succeed. Join us as we go beyond the basics and explore what it takes to make it in the world of real estate. So buckle up and get ready for a wild ride. This is Real Estate Secrets Unlocked. Hey everybody, it's Danielle Damiano with Real Estate Secrets Unlocked, and I am here today with Angie Parker, who I have known for quite some time now. She is the broker of local real estate here in Southwest Florida with a couple of different locations. And so thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be here with me. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for asking me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. So we go back a couple years when I was moving back from Miami in 2016 and trying to figure out, like, do I want to, stay in real estate? Do I want to get back into mortgage? And I was interviewing, and I interviewed with you at the Keller Williams office, and I was like in love with you. I was like, she's amazing. So we've had, a few years that we've known each other. So why don't you tell everybody just a little bit about you and what you're doing now and with local and stuff like that.
So let's see. This is year number 29 for me.
Oh my gosh.
I've most of it here in Southwest Florida. 2 years on the East Coast of Florida, and then probably 6 years of being in 4 different states. So I've definitely had the opportunity to know other markets. My favorite is Southwest Florida. This is a great market. This is a great place to be. I think you would concur with that.
Yes.
I've been on the leadership side of things probably out of the 29 years, almost 25 of them. So sold actively 4 years on beautiful Fort Myers Beach. That's where I sold all of the real estate that I sold as a salesperson. So Ian was very, very near and dear to my heart, even though we don't own a place on the beach any longer, but have a lot of friends, and seeing that devastating loss was tough. So here I am. I've worked for lots of large brands. And 5 years ago, my partner and myself started local real estate. We wanted a local boutique brokerage. We have 84 agents today,
Wow.
3 locations. We service Southwest Florida from Marco Island all the way up to actually Sarasota.
Oh
So cover a large territory. But here, a non-competing broker, so I don't sell my own book of business. Here to help the agents, grow their business, develop their business to whatever extent they'd like to do it. And that's where my passion is.
I love it. Yeah. And you can really tell, like, when I met with you, that was your passion, helping the agents grow their business. So tell me, when you moved, when you spent 6 years in other areas, what were you doing? Was it a move with another company, or was it okay?
So it was. So I left in 2008. I was offered an opportunity in Colorado to run a brokerage there. It was franchising at that point. It was an independent going to a franchise, an ERA franchise. And at that point, I think went from somewhere around 400 agents and 4 locations just within Colorado to 4 states and 1,300 agents. So we were in Florida, we were in Colorado, we were in Nevada, and we were in California.
Which is huge to say in 2008, because anybody that was around in 2008 knows what a nightmare that was. So a lot of people were getting out of the business at that point. So for you to grow a business in 2008 is huge.
Lots of HUD business, lots of asset business, lots of Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac accounts. So distressed sale business and short sale business was what we did.
Yeah.
And yes, it was much like you did, right? Learning the market and what you needed to do in order to succeed. And those that were able to do that really grew their opportunities.
Well, because in any shift, it really weeds out the people that got into the business thinking it was easy. If you think about it, like back in 2005, any agent with a pulse, you didn't have to do anything. Everybody was buying. So in 2008, I mean, that's really when it weeded a lot of people out of the business, and only like the strong survived, right? And you have to pivot, and you have to figure out, what is the market doing? Okay, I need to go and do that, because if you stay doing what you've been doing, you're going to get left behind.
Yes, 100%. But so much
Exactly.
opportunity, right? I mean, anytime a
Totally.
market, whether it's, shifting market, normalizing market, whatever's happening, that's changing, it's something different. To me, that's the best time to be in the business, because it's the biggest opportunity that you'll ever have.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I do think we're going to be seeing, a very changing market again, if we haven't already. So tell me a little bit about what you've seen recently in 2022 and over the past couple of years, let's just say from 2020 to 2022.
Yeah. Well, obviously, COVID hitting, and I mean, I think all of us were just trying to figure out, number one, none of us had ever seen anything like that. We had never seen a situation where, we're faced with, we aren't going to be able to do business possibly, right? Thank goodness, here in Florida, our governor fought for us and we were able to do business still. So thank goodness. And who knew that it would bring some crazy buyer frenzy after that we've experienced for 2 years, right?
Right.
We had no idea that was coming, and I think being in this highly desirable area of Southwest Florida, it was one of those places where people wanted to come, especially with people being in either colder climates or climates where they had tighter restrictions. All of a sudden, Florida seemed like a fantastic place to be. With people going via Zoom and doing their work remotely, and so we just had a 2 year period of time where I say, kind of, I saw things, as I'm sure you did, Danielle, and we're seasoned, veterans in the business, I would say, things that we'd never seen before were happening,
Yeah.
right? I mean, properties that would have 40 offers on them. I mean, it was unreal. So we spent those couple of years in what I want to call a very reactive mode instead of a proactive mode, right?
Exactly.
We weren't doing our basics of what we normally did in order to keep our businesses growing.
Exactly.
So I feel like, right now, so we came off this 2 years, and I'd say really it was kind of that May, June time period where I'm going to say the light switch turned, right? We turned it off and we went to a normal type of a buyer climate where a couple things happened. Buyers, number one, got very exhausted in our market where they were making multiple offers, not winning out, going 100 or 200,000 over ask. I mean, there was some craziness going on during those times. And so for the first time, I think just this past summer, that May, June timeframe where we really started to see things cooling, is I think they were going back to their normal vacationing. They were traveling. They were enjoying their lake houses in Michigan. And, they were just doing the normal things. So I had my agents coming to me going, okay, what's happening? So we started kind of adjusting and shifting even over the summer, right? Because we were experiencing what I call a normalizing market.
Right.
And people really had to get kind of proactive in what they were doing and reevaluate, really kind of back to basics. What do I
Exactly.
need to be doing? Where, lead generation, that was something that we all had gotten away from. It wasn't something that was happening on a consistent basis. For a lot of people, there were some in there that, yes, were consistently doing what they were supposed to be doing the whole time, but a majority, I think, were just reactive to the market, right? And so I think, now over the last 6-8 months, we've gotten to the point where we are back focused. We are looking at our business plans. We are evaluating our lead sources of where the business is coming from. We're getting back in touch with all those buyers that didn't have an opportunity to get what they wanted, or maybe they ended up buying something that they weren't 100% satisfied with.
Right.
So, of course, we have to talk here in Southwest Florida about Ian, right? That
Yes.
came just as, end of September's coming, and where you think, gosh, are we going to go into, our fall season? And we thought that fourth quarter should have been a very strong opportunity for us. We had, lots of people lined up, coming back into the market, going to buy things like that. And then we have this 100-year storm that I wish I'd never seen in my lifetime. I'm
I
sure we
know.
and that obviously is we've experienced living in Southwest Florida and South Florida, typically after a hurricane, prices always go up, right? And while there's been complete devastation from the hurricane, it also does bring opportunity
Mhm.
and it'll bring change. So I think since the hurricane, I mean, we were in 30 days of just helping everybody that we possibly could right away to make sure that people had a place to stay, people were okay, people were, at least being able to find a place to be, right? And wrap their head around what had happened. But then quickly after that, getting back into business because things were happening. We were finding that people were selling their homes right away. We were finding that people needed to buy a home right away because they didn't have anywhere else to go. People that were going to vacation here that couldn't secure or weren't able to still secure their vacation home because it was no longer there.
Yeah.
So just a lot of dynamics that were happening rather quickly after coming off of this huge shift, from a buyer frenzy to still shortage of inventory to then a major devastating hurricane. And now here we are. And I don't know what we call this market. It's still, but it's full of opportunity. That's the only thing that I keep telling my people.
Yes. Well, a couple of things. So first of all, going back to, when you were mentioning the agents just not doing the basics, right? Because everything's coming to them, they're busy writing offers, da da da. And then being like, oh my gosh, now what? And then now that you're doing the activities, right, that you need to be doing in order to get your business back up and running, I call that the sales roller coaster. And so what happens is the same thing's going to happen again. And it goes like this. It's like, okay, business is booming. I'm on top of it's amazing. It's so great. And then once your contracts or the market starts to, change a little bit, then you're down on that lull and you're like, oh my gosh, is this the new norm? Now I got to get back to basics. You do the activities and you're back up there. The problem is that a lot of agents don't take a step back from their business to see what they need to do to implement into their business and systems, what systems they need to implement, or people they need to hire, because they will be back up there again. And if they're here, they need to also be analyzing their business and saying, forward thinking, okay, once I get here again, what was I doing here that didn't allow me to consistently generate leads anymore? What was I doing here that didn't, what were the systems that I needed in place? Because if they don't look at that and they don't put those systems in place, then they're going to always be on that roller coaster. And that's what a lot of agents are on. And then I think the other thing, like you had mentioned, the Ian, I mean, it was a huge, huge, huge devastation. And honestly, any agent that is out there, and I'm not knocking the part-time agents, I'm not knocking them at all, because a lot of people want to be a full-time agent, but they can't leave their full-time job because of the unknown. But the market before, when you were writing multiple offers for your buyers, really needed an agent that knew what they were doing, because the agents that knew what they were doing and knew their way around contracts were the agents getting those contracts accepted for their buyers. Whether it would be, getting a little funky with contingency periods or, inspection periods and stuff like that. Now with Ian, it's the same, because what we're seeing now on how you have to go about, insurance, or what to ask on a listing presentation, because you don't know if there's an open claim with their insurance company or not. Did they assign their benefits over to somebody else? There's a lot of different quirky things in this situation also. So I feel like the agents in Southwest Florida have to be on top of their game, and any buyer looking to buy 100% has to be working with an agent, or else they could lose big time.
I couldn't agree with you more. And you said it perfectly. We needed to up our game with education and strategizing and negotiations, and being sure that we were doing everything we possibly could to adapt to the buyer frenzy and the multiple offer situation market that we were in, right? And finding those properties and being, as quickly as we could to move forward to secure for our buyers, right? And now all of a sudden, it's just like you said, if people aren't using a realtor today after what we've experienced here, it's definitely not in their advantage, right? Because, navigating the market today and all the different elements that are going in with regarding how much damage did the property have? What does the FEMA 50% rule have to do with that? What is insurance going to look like? What kind of tests do I need to do to make sure that, what am I looking for? What
Right.
needs to be tested? What am I going to be able to build back on that property? There are so many different things to navigate. So again, we, the realtor, are forced to up our education, up our negotiating skills, be the source to the resources that the buyers are going to need in order to be able to successfully, have their purchase be what they're expecting, and then be able to do what they're anticipating to do with that property once they do purchase it.
Exactly.
So many moving parts. I think that, when I say, and I feel so old in this industry, thank goodness I was 12 when I got in.
Well, you
20
don't look it. Let me just say that. You look amazing.
Thank you. 29 years though. This is my year 29. I'm thinking to myself, my goodness, you are learning every day in this industry. And if you are not that agent who is willing to get the education every day, and like you said, take a look at your business, evaluate your business, put the work into strategizing, realizing what I need to do. Am I following a plan? Do I even have a plan? Did I hire a coach? Do I know how to negotiate? Have I educated myself on all the different, arenas that we need to be educated in now since the storm? I mean, I don't know how people survive right now in today's market, or how they will moving forward. There will be less units as a whole. We already know this nationwide. There'll be less units. Again, I always say more opportunity for those that are willing to do the work, right? But just, the word that just keeps coming back to me is opportunity, education, being intentional and being purposeful about your business and what you're doing for the next couple of years.
100%. And always, I have actually a group that I'm coaching, and I talked to them this morning, and I told them, I said, look, there's several new ones in the group. And I said, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon with no end. It's a marathon with no end, because once you think you know it all, it changes. Once you think you know your contracts, they change. Once you think you have your marketing down, it changes. I mean, I don't even remember social media. Like, I was door knocking. Let's just say that when I got into the business, I was literally knocking on doors. It wasn't social media. So now with the social media, it's like, wow, I can get, in front of people, a lot more people, a lot quicker than before. But everything's always changing. So having to stay on top of it and realizing that you have to learn so many aspects about the business, especially if you want to have, a thriving business.
Yes.
So let me ask you this, and I'm gonna say something in a minute, but going back to 2008, both you and I were in 2008, 2005 to 2008. We'll just say that, because 8 was kind of like it already hit the fan, right? So, what similarities and differences do you see happening in the market now? And do you think we are going to be maybe not in as bad of a situation as 2008, but a similar situation?
Okay, so let's pick this apart because there's many different components. So number one, the first thing I'm going to say, and I think this is so important, and we are, trying to educate our agents every day to give them the data that they need, right, and the sources that they need to educate their buyers and sellers of what's going on. Because if you listen to the noise, it will tell you, we're headed for this crash. Well, we're not. And the number one thing that prevents that from happening is we still are at a deficit of inventory. We do not have enough inventory to fulfill the buyer need. We've even seen that. I just had 2 situations. We were in multiple offer situations because we were at a deficit. A property came on the market. There was nothing else like it in that area, and we had 3 offers on it, and it went above ask price. So I mean, this is still happening, right? Yeah. And that's one of the number one things we have to remember. In the years 2005 to 8, all of a sudden we had such a surplus of inventory and new build starts, right? So we had almost twice the inventory that we had right now. So when you look at the differences, it's like it's night and day. So supply and demand still is kicking in.
Right.
So Now, the one thing I will say that I see a huge similarity in is the fact that we have grown to what I think it's 1.6 million realtors nationwide. That number is going to decrease. We are not going to continue to have, that great a number of people. Two things, I think. Number one, you hit it, technology. That is something that is not an option anymore for agents in the business, in my opinion. And I know I'm sure yours too.
Yeah.
Is you are going to have to get with technology. Video is going to have to be in your business plan. So there's certain things I think that are evolving. I had MLS books, for heaven's sakes, when I sold real estate. It was a different world. So things are evolving now that are going to force some of those agents that have been in the industry for a while to probably look at it and say, you know what? I think I'm done. I think I'm just going to maybe refer business now, right? And then you're going to have those agents that did get in that don't even understand what a normal market looks like over the last, 3 or 4 years, and they're going to not survive. And they're going to say, or that part-time agent that says, I just can't do this any longer, and they will get out of business. So that's a similarity that we had back during those times. So I think that again will happen for sure, which again, that brings opportunity for those agents that are building their teams, building their business, right? I think that's where either they'll pick up some great agents to add to their team, or they'll pick up that business opportunity. Because if you look at, maybe 50% of those agents that maybe did 1 or 2 deals over the last year, that all of a sudden opens up opportunity for those agents that are building their business to grasp those opportunities.
Right. And what's cool about real estate, and I didn't think about this before, and maybe it's just because the world is changing and technology is changing and stuff like that. But when you got into real estate before, it was almost like, okay, you're a realtor, boots on the ground, got to be local, da da da. I'm talking to so many different agents that, yes, that is the norm. That's the normal real estate agent. But there's a lot of agents out there that have built their business in different ways, right? So maybe you're an agent that has a ton of connections nationwide, right? So you don't necessarily have to be that boots on the ground. And that's one of the things I was saying to one of my coaching clients today is that, she was saying, I'm new to the area. All my people is in Minnesota. And so and they, they're young, they're not going to have money. So me calling them, asking them who they know. And I said, yeah, but maybe they want to buy in Minnesota and you can get a referral fee. There's a lot of agents that a big portion of their business is from referral fees, especially if people are looking in a certain area. We get this all the time in Southwest Florida. Oh, I'm between, let's just say Southwest Florida and Port St. Lucie, okay, great. I completely understand that you're looking over in that area too. I have an amazing agent over in Port St. Lucie. I would love to connect you with them as well. So that way you have an idea as to, what area you want to work with and get that referral fee. There's a lot of agents right now that are prospectors and they prospect for listings and buyers, and they have their buyers agents and their listing agents going out and taking them. So, it's definitely changed a lot in the way that we do business. So it's not a one size fits all anymore. I mean, you really can tailor the business to however you want. One of the things that I am going to say, I just wrote a book on this, and I will be having a book launch. My hacked Facebook account put a little damper on it because it was supposed to be on the 6th. But I wrote a book, Short Sale Secrets Unlocked, back in 2008. I made a killing, crushed, literally made a lot of money, lost almost everything, door knocked pre-foreclosure homes, and then started building my listing inventory up very quickly with the pre-foreclosure. A lot of times people will say, well, we're not in that type of economy. The mortgage companies were not giving, subprime loans and all of this other stuff as to why we're not going to see foreclosures. And I actually disagree, not with the subprime loan thing, but I do think we're going to start to see a lot of foreclosures. And here's why. Whenever we go into a recession, let's just say, we look back and we say, well, it wasn't like it was, way back, back in 2005 or 2008 or whatever. But history repeats itself. And so because we're going to always have recessions, it's not going to be the same cause as to what happened not too long ago, right? In the last recession, or even if you look at the history of recessions, there's always a recession every certain amount of years, right? So I think Just for an example, the flood maps changed. And there's a lot of people that are now in flood zones that were not in flood zones. And if they have a mortgage and they're barely able to make that mortgage payment, and now they have to get flood insurance on top of that, that's very high, they may not be able to make their monthly mortgage payments. That's one of the things that I'm starting to see. In fact, I had a real estate agent that went and showed property and said it's not in a flood zone, and then realized it was because the flood maps changed, right? So whether it's that, or someone lost their job due to COVID and they took 6 months and they weren't able to work, well, those mortgage payments added on top of their mortgage, and now they're behind and they can't. So I do think we're going to see more foreclosures, more, short sales and things like that. Not as much as 2008, but we will see those come back, which is another thing that will bring opportunity for any agent that wants to pivot and learn, that type of the business. But what do you think on that?
So, and it's twofold. Do I think that there'll be, yes, I think you hit it on the head. There's going to be some opportunity there. Now, the other side of the coin that prevents me from believing we'll have a huge opportunity in that arena, like we saw before, or even comparable to what we saw before, is the fact that we have so much equity in those homes. That's the one thing that's very different this time around. The last time when we were buying homes and getting 100% financing or doing whatever we were doing, right, or walking away possibly underwater already, right, when we just got into the home, it just was a different scenario. Right now, people have equity in their homes. It doesn't mean that they won't be in that situation, Danielle. I completely agree with you that based on, what their flood insurance might be now and what homeowners insurance, we know what we've faced here in Southwest Florida the last couple of years. It's more than doubled in some cases, right? So I agree with you there. It's going to be opportunity. I just think that if realtors, right, look at how do I help these people? How do I get the word out and or make that my specialty? That, hey, let me show you how I get you out of your home with the equity that you have, save you from going into a foreclosure situation, right? I think if the more proactive we can be in these arenas because of the large amounts of equity, I think that will prohibit us from being in that situation. Although we know the foreclosures, they've already ticked up slightly, but they've been at a historic low for the last few years, right?
Right.
So I think that yes, we'll see some. I just don't know to what level. And again, I think it's because of that equity number that's out there with these homes in the huge amount of equity. I mean, on average, I think you're talking, two to somewhere in the mid twos to up, to 300,000 is the average amount of equity that some people are having in these homes. And that's large.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the other thing, I did a mortgage for somebody and they were buying the home. We got the title. We didn't realize the home had a list pendants on it. We had no idea. And so what happens a lot of times is sellers don't know what to do. Like they're stuck there. They have a list pendants and they don't know what to do. And that's where a lot of the opportunity comes in for an agent, is to say, hey, I see that you received a list pendants, on your property, or a notice of foreclosure. You only have a certain amount of time to do something before you go into foreclosure. So, let me show you what your options are so I can help you avoid having a foreclosure on your credit, because a foreclosure on your credit is going to be a lot more time. Like if you have a foreclosure on your credit, you're not doing anything for about 7 years, depending on what type of mortgage you can get. So, really identifying those properties. And you're right, a lot of them do have equity. Unfortunately, a lot of sellers are like stuck. They have that like analysis paralysis type.
Right. And then that is absolutely true. And I mean, they could burn equity very quickly by being stuck in that situation. I think, you hit it on the head, and it just gets me to thinking of, and you need to teach this, Danielle, in your classes, because I know you've got a couple of my agents in your coaching, in which I'm thrilled. But, how do you go after that? How do you make that your niche? Like, how do you do this so that we can get people out of those homes with at least a little bit of something without having to go through the foreclosure? They've got enough money to go so they can go rent somewhere, do what they need to do, to wait it out a couple of years so that they can build themselves back up, right? Exactly. And then get something that's not going to require as much money because the insurance isn't as high, or I'm not in a flood zone. So, right. I mean, there, what a wonderful thing and value an agent can bring by developing that niche market.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, no, I just finished my book on it and I have a master class coming up on it. So I'm excited to teach that because that's really what, it's funny because you look at other people, and I remember in 2008 looking at the people that were smart enough to go and get with the asset managers to get signed up to be a foreclosure REO agent. And I was like, they're so lucky. They're making all this money. They're not really doing much but listing the homes, and they were selling like crazy. And so I said, well, what can I do? And that's when I pivoted into the pre-foreclosures, and I literally was door knocking them. I had my little clipboard. I was going around to the areas and bringing a copy of their list pendants, and built my business pretty quickly with that niche. But that's the cool thing about real estate is it's almost like if you look at a doctor, right? Like you can be a general physician where you are, as if we're looking analogy with a realtor, you do whatever, or you can start to be specialized, right? One's a heart surgeon. Okay, I work pre-foreclosure homes, or I work expired listings, or I work, listings in general. So it's really cool, for people to realize that you can specialize within this business, and that will even make you, help you grow that much more.
100%. And I mean, how rewarding is that when you can go out and help someone to prevent them from being in that situation? Because obviously we know if it goes on long enough, you can burn through equity and you can be in that situation pretty quickly.
Mhm.
So, I think that's huge. And I think that it will be a huge opportunity. And yes, someone just needs to teach it. So I'm glad that you're coming out with that program because that's phenomenal.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's going to be a good one. So tell me what other opportunities you see, I guess, for buyers and sellers in this market, or is there an opportunity more for buyers, more for sellers? What do you think?
I think it's both. I really do. I see a sense where number one, buyers coming back into the marketplace. Do we still have multiple offer situations? Well, yes, I gave you an example earlier of that. However, is there opportunity for buyers to come in and maybe get one of the properties that was damaged and still be able to realize what they want to do with that property and it fits within their perimeters of what they're looking to do? Yes, I mean there's going to be opportunities for any and all buyers. They just have to know their options and know what they're really wanting. And I think that's where a realtor comes in again, is really being able to walk through and kind of peel the onion back to figure out what is it that you're trying to accomplish, and is it and kind of with a realtor, our specialties are looking at, hey, are you really going to have this home for 3 years or is it 5 years? What is your, what is your final destination, so to speak, with this? Because I know a lot of folks that, they think that I'm going to buy this home and I'm going to retire in it. And well, Danielle, we know the truth is people end up buying 3 or 4 or 5 different properties by the time they finally end up retiring and having something down here. So I think it's really the realtors educating themselves to be able to really identify with those buyers to help them through the process to achieve their needs and their goals. I'm sorry. And then I think for sellers, the prices right now, they're not going down. We see price decreases, but I think we see price decreases because sometimes sellers are still trying to price their property from back in March and April when we were still in a buyer frenzy, right? And buyers are listening to the noise and they're trying to say 6 months out where the market's going to crash. So we're definitely a little bit of a disconnect, buyers and sellers. So it's that education that has to come from the realtor again, right? Educating, hey, here's the market, snapshot of what's happening in this particular area. Here's what's gone pending. Here's where we're, again, giving those different stats and statistics so that the buyers and sellers can both make the educated decisions that are going to be best to fit their needs.
Right.
One size fits all works for buyers, sellers. You have to identify the outcome that they're looking for, as well as the realtor, right? I mean, that's the realtor's job, is to figure out, how do I sharpen up my skill set, right? Ask the right questions,
100%.
identify those needs, right? So I think, again, that's where I'm really big on education right now, because we've got to get back to our basic education, and we have to kind of expand on that for today's market and what our buyers and sellers to help them fulfill those long-term goals that they have.
And that's what I was, that we went over scripting in my class last week, and it's the big, who, what, where, why, when, Okay. And how? You have to dig deep for motivation, and you have to know the answers to those questions to really be able to help them. I think another big thing in 2022 that really, really, really affected, especially the Southwest Florida market, we're a huge second home area. I mean, we are a huge second home area. And when Fannie changed the way second home interest rates are looked at and made them the same as investment properties, and rates went through the roof. So people in, October, November of 2021 are getting quoted 3.25 on a second home. Well, that 3.25 went to 5.25, paying 3 points at closing. That was huge. That was a huge sticker shock. And I think people are now starting to realize, okay, well, this is the norm. And what's interesting, I was just up in Boston for Christmas, and I was talking to my best friend's dad. And he said, you get the question, especially if you're in mortgage, what are interest rates doing? So you know what he told me? He said, I bought my first investment property back in the 80s, and my interest rate was 18%. I said, see, and you still bought the investment property. And he said, yep. And I sold it when my daughter went to college, and that investment property paid for her college. So,
that's the conversation that too, I'm kind of pointing out to folks is when, you say to a buyer, well, I can't afford to do this because the interest rate has gone up, but I still want to achieve this goal. Well, we have to remember, even though we won't see, I think Lee County had 36% appreciation as an average last year, which is insanity, right? But even if you're going to see the normal appreciation, somewhere between 4 and 6% each year, that's huge when you compound that over a few years. So paying that slightly higher interest rate, which actually, if you average it out over 30 years, right, 6% is like a normal rate, right? I know it was 9.5 when I was selling properties, so there you go. But at the end of the day, I think it's that education, and it's that walking people through figuring out what their long-term goals are and seeing if it still fits their need, and figuring out, okay, well, what product do we purchase now? Right? It doesn't mean we're going to have that for the next 10 years, but if we keep it for 3 years and then we go to something else, and then eventually, with interest rates, and you're the expert, you can speak to this, but in the few years, I'm sure that there will be products and things that'll be available that might be something that's a little bit lower, and they could refinance at that time, or look at an arm, or do something. And I can't speak intelligently to that because that is not my arena. That is yours.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're seeing a lot of arms. For a long time, it was the 30-year fixed. But back when I got started in the business in 01, I mean, I was doing 228 and 327 arms. It was like, and that was more subprime where I started, but still we had adjustable rate mortgages. It was a very common thing. And we're seeing that a lot more now. And then you can always refinance, as long as you're not locked in with a prepayment penalty, you can always refinance. So yeah, absolutely. We're starting to see a lot more products come out that are making homes more affordable than they were from, let's just say, March of last year until the end of 2022. So I think 2023 is going to be an amazing year. Tons of opportunity for any agent willing to do the work. I 100% if you believe that if you're an agent and you're having it's not as crazy right now, identifying what things what do you need to do in your business that is going to allow you to grow and scale instead of being on that sales roller coaster. And start working, having that list. Okay, maybe it's a transaction coordinator. Maybe it's someone, taking contract to close. If you're in listings, maybe it's an assistant that's inputting the listings for you, attending whatever, the photography, all that stuff that you should not be doing if you're a high agent, a high producing agent, because that photographer is, he's there. You don't need to be there. But yeah, so what advice would you have for any real estate agent, I guess, just starting out, and or any real estate agent that is kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can, do this because I need money and I'm scared?
So 2 things. Number one, I think that, whether you're new or whether you're a seasoned agent, And if you are facing a point right now where you're going, okay, I don't have the reserves that I need. I don't have the pipeline that I need to make the sales that I need to get the income that I need. I think two things need to happen. Number one, sit down, talk to your broker, talk to your, somebody in your office about what is it that I need to do, and or a seasoned agent, right? That's doing well. I think that, it's always good to talk to somebody that is doing well. And then maybe look at the opportunity of joining a team. Maybe that's what you really need to do right now, is join a team so that they're taking the marketing and the lead gen opportunities. They're bringing them to you. In other words, they're taking that off your plate, so you're not having to pay for them, and maybe more quickly you can learn from them what works, right? Because then you're going to be in an arena where certain expectations need to be met, but you are learning. And or go out and hire a coach and get into coaching like you're offering, and surrounding yourself, with those like-minded individuals that are doing well, and roll up your sleeves and get to work. This is this market, and the market in the foreseeable future is a market in which we will work hard. I've been through, several different markets now, from a buyer's market when I sold real estate to, everything we've gone through, right? And in 29 years. And it doesn't matter what market it is, you still got to work hard. If you want to be sustain your business in a sustainable manner, right? Even with doing just a little bit of the roller coaster, not the deep dive roller coaster, you have to run it like a business, and you have to work it. This is not something that is going to just happen for you. I tell every new agent that gets in, we exhaust those friends and family right away, right? And we kind of are on a roller coaster, and we're excited because we have 2 or 3 or 4 sales. And then all of a sudden we look up and go, I don't even know what I just did. And I don't even know what I'm going to do, because now nobody's coming in. So teams, I think getting on a team and or in coaching are absolutely the 2 options that you have for moving forward in this market.
100%. I agree with you. Like a team or a coach,
or
both will get you that much farther, that much quicker. You know, so definitely.
In training, I mean, this is something, I mean, in both of us, we admit it fully. We're learning all the time in this industry, right? We're evolving. We stay coachable, we stay trainable. And then whatever we learn, we're pouring into people. That has to keep continuing to happen. And I think that's probably what's kept me so passionate, engaged in this business for 29 years, is the fact that no 2 days are ever the same, right? No two transactions are ever the same. And it's full of opportunity, and it's full of learning opportunities as well, right? So,
but I also think it's you and I both, we love seeing people win. And so when we can, help somebody and be like, you know what I mean? And they're winning and they're having sales and they realize, I can do that. Like, that is so much more rewarding, you know what I mean? Than anything else. No, I agree with you 100%. So first of all of this was amazing. So I really appreciate you being here. And you're a great coach. You have built a tremendous, in a short period of time. I mean, you went from 0 when you started local, which was how many years ago?
So we're actually starting our 5th year. This is on the 15th of January. We're going into our 5th year here in this office. And we started with 4 of us. It was myself, my business partner, Dre, and our 2 spouses. So that literally is what we started with. I think we built it to 96 at one point. We're starting the year with 83. So we'll see what this year has in store. It's been very exciting. We never thought that we would start a company and then be faced with COVID shortly thereafter. So it's been a wild ride so far, but I'm up for the challenge, and I'm excited about the upcoming years.
Yes, 2 things I want to say real quick about that too is that I know a lot of your agents, and there's a lot of brokerages out there that their whole motto is volume. Yours isn't. And so your agents, yes, if you have 83 or 96 or however many you have, I want to say at least 60% are good producing, if not more, producing agents. And so that speaks a lot, because it's not just let me take anybody in here and then hang your license. I mean, you're very specific on who you're going to allow, because time is, that's a lot of it. And the other thing is that one thing that you had mentioned is 5 years. And a lot of agents out there don't understand the length of time it takes to build a business. And by the time you get to 5 years, then things start to get a little bit easier. But the first year, second year, third year, you're in the grind.
Yes.
And, as I was mentioning today to my coaching clients, inaction brings confusion because they get in that, analysis paralysis. They don't know what to do. They don't know who to call. What do I say? Da, da, da. Action brings clarity, right? So you have to take massive amounts of action in the first couple of years to then be able to get to year 5 where things is going to start to get a lot easier for you.
If you're doing the right things in order to build the business, right?
Right.
Yeah. Build
Exactly.
it, maintain it, and continue to grow it. And that's why I say, there's no industry like our industry, right? I mean, when you talk about real estate, and I'm saying mortgages and everything related to it, we really are in a business to where we can grow this to whatever extent we decide to grow it to. And that's something that not everybody can say depending on what industry you're in, right?
Exactly. And you can make, and this is what I tell people all the time, you can make more money than a doctor, a lawyer. You can make so much money in this business, but a lot of people come in and they don't put the work into it, or they don't treat it like a business, and they don't realize they are the CEO of this business. So it takes time, it takes education, it takes money.
Yes.
It takes money. You're starting a business.
Yes. Yes. And you can't take your foot off the gas. Like that,
100%.
that's the one thing that you just, regardless of what the market is doing, we know one thing: people will always buy homes and they will always sell homes, but we can never take our foot off the gas, right? And if that's what we have to figure out, how do we keep the momentum building
and not get complacent?
Yes. And that's what happened over the last couple of years.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Angie, for being on. You are amazing, a 29-year veteran in the industry. And you got another 10, 20 years in it. So
it's two up above. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I've actually had a lot of fun. Danielle, I respect you. You are just an amazing realtor, number one. You're an amazing lender. You've done some amazing things. You're always pouring into people. Thank you for all you do for all of us.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Watch for the short sale masterclass that will be coming probably second quarter of this year. And thank you, Angie. You're awesome. So I'm looking forward to see the growth of local real estate over the next 10, 20 years.
Thank you so much, Danielle. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Real Estate Secrets Unlocked. Don't forget to subscribe to our show on your favorite platform, and we would love your feedback. Check us out on social and let me know what topics you want more of. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and our show. I'm your host, Danielle Damianov, and until next time, stay motivated, stay excited, and keep growing in this crazy world of real estate. Thanks for listening to Real Estate Secrets Unlocked.